Welcome to Nirmala Yoga. Hi beauties, good morning. So what do you need today from your practice? Let's take a deep breath and arrive on the mat in whatever position feels good today. Maybe you're going to stay seated, relaxing into the shoulders, getting nice and long in the spine. Maybe you're going to come all the way down to earth and release and relax down into the floor, letting go of any tension throughout the entire body, letting go of any tension or tugs or pulls in the mind. Any thoughts trying to take us outside of this space that we're stepping into, our yoga space, our practice time. Breathe deep. Let that release come on all levels. Feel the entirety of the skin relaxing and releasing, even the palms of the hands, the soles of the feet, the crown of the head, and all the way down over the head and the neck and the shoulders, the arms and the torso and the legs. Allow yourself to release and to relax. And check in, do a little scan as you're relaxing through the body. Maybe there's certain parts of the body that need a little bit of extra attention today. Perhaps joints and muscles, maybe organs are going to be a focus of your practice today. Perhaps today your practice is all about the breath. And let's make sure that the breath is a big part of our practice right now as we come to 4 or 5 3-part breaths, creating that expansion in the belly, then lower ribs, then upper ribs, and softening first upper ribs, then lower ribs, and then the belly. And after the first couple, we might start to add a little squeeze to push that last little bit of air out, activating the bandhas, activating those abdominal muscles. Then on the inhale, there's still that space. Holding on to that space in the belly right until the end of the exhale, and then maybe squeezing it out. Last couple. And then coming away from that breath, starting to find a little bit of movement, if movement is started our practice today. Maybe even fluttering those eyes open. And if we're laying down or if we're seated, we're still going to find a little movement with the head. Maybe a little roll left and right, still connected to your breath. Still deep with the breath, full with the breath. Maybe a little tick-tock, one ear coming to one shoulder. And then whether we're seated or not, even if we're lying down, we might bring the hands behind the head. Interlace those fingers, find that occipital ridge, that ridge of bone at the base of the skull. And then press the head into the hands. We might be lifting up a little bit away from the floor so that we can press the head back down in towards the hands. Or if we're seated, finding that resistance with the hands as you press the head in. You might tuck the chin a little bit to explore as well. And we're not pushing the hands into the head to make the head move, just to provide that resistance as we press the head back into the hands. You might find some double, triple, quadruple chins at some point during this, if we're very much tucking that chin. And as we come out of it, we're going to find a cactus. Even if we're lying down, we'll find that cactus, and if we're seated, we'll find that cactus. Shoulders dropping down away from the ears, so we're nice and long in the neck. Long in the whole of the body, a couple more breaths. If you're lying down, this is going to be a lot more restorative. If we're seated, it's going to be a lot more active. You could have lain down if you wanted to, or sat up. Exhaling, bringing those hands either Anjali Mudra or just placing them over the heart. Let's connect back into a beautiful deep breath and just notice how a little bit of movement has maybe created some larger changes. especially if we've been working around the thoracic. And I found a change to the heart rate, sensations in the muscles, releasing down and shaking it out. I'm going to come join you guys on the mat. And if you're still lying down, come join us in a seated position. Take your time getting here. Let's find some circles and bring that movement into the shoulders, into the torso. If you're not ready to come up yet, maybe you're freestyling right now, listening to your body and finding what works for you. Go with it, breathe with it. If you're circling with me, we're coming back in the opposite direction. And then releasing into a forward fold. So some of you are going to stay maybe up here, feeling that flexion at the hips, letting the head perhaps relax down. Some of you are going to be able to come all the way to the earth, and some of you are even going to slide it forwards and find a little puppy pose while you're here. Hello, baby. So what kind of breath have you been doing? Did it stay deep? Did it stay full? Coming back to sit on the buttocks, coming up from that forward fold. Let's change the cross of the legs. Hey, baby. And find a little bit of left and right. Again, finding that space into the side body and around the shoulders. And then coming forwards into that forward fold. Releasing up, coming back, opening the heart. Coming forwards, maybe it's just a little more like this for you. A bit more seated, cat-cow. Or maybe we're coming all the way into that forward fold. And all the way back. Coming to either position or taking that puppy pose again if we want to. Finding some stillness. Connecting into a deep, beautiful breath. Noticing how that breath changes things as you find that expansion at the top of the inhale. Throughout the whole of the inhale. And then some softness, some relaxation with your exhalations. And then coming out of it, back to seated. And we're going to let those legs come out long. Find a little bit of movement. Maybe we're just banging the backs of the thighs into the earth, backs of the calves, getting a nice little massage. Maybe there's a little bit of movement left and right. No right, no wrong. And then let's step those feet in. Come for a nice little forward fold here and really feel that flexion at the hips now by bringing the knees up as high as we need to enable that to happen. And then from there, let's start a little journey down, letting the breath guide us. Maybe if we're pausing with the breath and we're not breathing so deeply anymore, maybe we've found that spot and we're going to come out of it a little bit. Maybe if we're starting to furrow the brow, we've gone too deeply. Or if we're starting to round the back away from the thighs. Let's find that connection between belly and thighs and hold on to it as maybe we stretch those legs out longer and longer and longer. Aware of left-hand side and right-hand side. Any differences between the two? What's similar between the two? Still with that contact between the belly and the thighs. Allowing the heart and the ribcage to lift up and away, to lengthen even more. When you found that place to stay, breathe into it and see what changes. Maybe you can go a little bit further in after a couple of breaths there. Maybe you have to soften back out a little bit because you weren't breathing deeply. Or there was another little signal that you'd gone a little too deeply. To in that space of growing into the pose and allowing the pose to happen. Hello, baby. Coming on up when you're ready. We're going to release back down to the elbows, step those feet in and find a little swish swish with the knees. And then let's extend one leg out. Nice and long up towards the sky, making sure that we're not rounding into the shoulders, that we're still nice and long in the torso. And then find that external rotation. Might take the foot out a little bit as well. Breathe deep. And then let's drop that foot down. And either we're going to roll it down to our figure four, or we're going to roll it up to our figure four. Making sure that the spine is nice and long, letting that be a good guide. That maybe we need to step the foot out a little bit more in order to get that length. Or that we can come in a little bit more if we found it. And then if you're down, roll yourself up. But we're going to extend that leg out and find ourselves a little forward fold again while we're here. And we might be crisscrossing those hands over, finding a nice long stretch through the side body, making sure both sides of the body are nice and long. And it might look a little bit more like this. That's okay. You've got a little bend in that knee as well to help that flexion at the hips. Maybe you're just kind of hanging over, ragdoll style. Very yin and just letting go. Last couple of breaths to explore and to find and to create what you need. And then some of us are going to be staying down, finding a little twist this way. Some of us are going to be coming up in the opposite direction into a little side plank. Those toes now pointing away from that lower foot and lifting up and finding that space into the side body. And releasing down as you do. Let's extend that leg and come into a little forward fold. Before we release back up and down onto those elbows, ready for that opposite side, thinking about nice and long in the torso, that flexion coming at the hips as we extend the left leg up. I'm going to hold it for a few seconds, for a few rounds of breath. Shoulders away from the ears, nice and long, the whole of the spine, including the neck. And then come to that external rotation. You might keep it there, you might move it out a little bit. Depends what you're looking to find. Maybe it's a little bit lower down if it needs to be. Or you're coming back down to earth if you're feeling any compensation patterns kicking in or any pain. A little bit of work is okay. Releasing down and finding that figure four pose. And either coming down to earth or coming up to sit on those sitting bones. Press into those sitting bones to lift up nice and tall. Soft in the shoulders wherever you are, soft in the face. Deep with the breath, and maybe we're adding a little bit, pressing with the elbow, pushing into the earth. Or maybe we're just softly, softly finding what we need today. And then come on up if you're laying back. You can extend that lower leg down. Find that flexion at the hips again and come into a forward fold. Maybe up a little bit more, using those hands behind or crossing them over that foot on the extended leg. Let's find space in the side body. What kind of breath are you doing here? Last couple. Where is that space coming to? Where is it still a little bit sticky? What else can you you find it that's just for you. As we come up, you've got those two options. Maybe we're going to find a little twist, and then we're going to find side body space and length and space through that hip. Or we're going to find the same thing coming up into a little side plank. Finding somewhere that we can really feel into that space on the side body. Breathing deep. Making those little adjustments as you grow into the pose. Or as you need to soften out a bit. Checking in, breath to breath, moment to moment. And allowing that to keep you steady and present. As we come back down, we're extending and coming into a nice little forward fold with those legs crossed, perhaps, if that works. Might have a little bend in them again in order to feel that flexion and that length. Maybe you want to feel it more in the backs of the legs. Maybe you can feel it all the way from the back of the head down through the back body, down the back of the legs into the heels. A little flexion in the feet, maybe you bring it into the soles as well. And then coming on up. As we do, we're going to release back onto those elbows and find a little swish swish. And then bringing those feet together, knees wide. Maybe we're going to stay here. Perhaps thinking about even a little bit of a back bend or certainly length to the spine. Maybe you're going restorative and coming down to the earth. And some of us are going to find a forward fold here instead. So maybe you play around a little bit, a breath or two in each of those as you check in and see which is really going to benefit you the most in this moment. Where it's of benefit to you, how it's of benefit to you. Finding a beautiful deep breath. Maybe some engagement of the bandhas, maybe not. What feels good today? Last couple of breaths. Now, a couple of options wherever you've been. Take that option to maybe come forward and take a little hover on the blades of those feet. Or if you're in that forward fold and you want to flow it back down to the earth and find a more restorative fashion for a couple of breaths. Or if you're down, come up slowly as well. Check in how it feels. I'm just going to switch down onto my mat. What feels good today? Have you already managed to create some alchemy in the body and with the breath? Is it already starting to feel a little bit different? As we're coming out of it, wherever we've been, we're going to find that little swish swish either with the hands to the earth or maybe the elbows if that feels a little bit better. And then we're going to push on up and all the way to a little squat pose. If squat pose isn't really working for you today and you'd rather maybe come down and come up into a little camel pose, that's fine. Or pillow knee. And if we're here in our balance pose instead, we might be changing things up a little bit, stretching those arms up to the sky, even taking those hands behind and finding ourselves a little heart opener while we're here in this balance pose. Releasing those knees down, releasing the hands coming all the way up and around, and let's join in that camel pose now. If you've been there a little while, make sure you've got enough strength to come up out of it so you can release whenever you're ready. Maybe stay for a couple more breaths. And then releasing, taking those hands on up to the sky. Exhaling, coming to sit back down. Now if you'd rather be cross-legged for this bit, that's a bit better for your knees, go right ahead, because you're going to inhale, take those hands on up. Exhale, and find a little twist around. Maybe add some little scoops with the head, creating sensations, finding space in the neck, around the shoulders. Also that torso is coming around. And for those who want to, you might even take one hand down, come into a little back bend with this twist if it feels good. Make sure the neck is nice and long, the breath is deep. And then releasing, calming central, and just checking in there, letting those organs move back into place. Taking some deep breaths and watching as those sensations dissipate, and maybe some stay. And then we'll find our way to the opposite side. So inhaling, exhaling first, we're finding the twist. Maybe we're adding a little something for the neck and shoulders. Maybe it's a little movement with the shoulder. Still working on that length of the spine. And then if we want to, maybe we take a little back bend into that twist. Check your breath. Soften around the eyes, around the jaw. Strengthen where you need to and soften everywhere else. Let your breath be a guide. If you can't breathe deep, maybe come out of the pose a little bit so you can breathe fully and deeply. And then releasing. Coming neutral again and just watching, observing, releasing and letting go any tension that built up during that pose. Using a breath in through the nose and out through the mouth to really find that release. And then let's take our attention to the hands a little bit. Some of us are going to come back up into our little balance pose while we're here. And find some circles, working through the fingers as well. Might take those movements on up to the sky. And then we might bring them out to the sides. Then we might find a little cactus while we're here, still with that movement of the fingers. And then release and bring those hands together. For those of you who want to go for a little fly today, a little crow pose, maybe we're coming with the knees to the outside, even the knees up towards the armpits, depends what you're feeling like today. And if you're not quite there, then let's just work into that sensation of shifting the weight forward, getting a nice little stretch to the wrist, not going so far that there's pain, of course, being respectful. So maybe it's just a very gentle press on and push away. Press on and push away. Maybe we're pressing on and coming forwards a little bit, and then coming back and away. And not thinking about coming up, coming forwards. If you're flying, breathe deep. Fly high. And then as we're coming back down, we're going to find a little stretch in the opposite direction for those wrists. So we might stay in a little squat position. Maybe the fingers are spread as wide as you can, but pressing down into the earth and pointing towards one another. Maybe they're pointing back towards you, but watch those elbows, watch those shoulders. Let's try and get the eyes of the elbows forwards rather than here. Spreading fingers and pressing into the floor as much as feels good. One more breath. And then releasing. We might find a little shake out or some circles again. And bring those hands to the heart center. So you could have your heels down in this squat. Or you could be up on the tippy toes. Toes and knees pointing in the same direction. As you find a little bit of balance. And then let's bring it on up. Inhaling. And exhaling, coming down to heart center. We're gonna find first our balance. Maybe coming off the mat. Really feeling it into the earth in our Tadasana. You might be just relaxing down or engaged and pressing down through fingertips, legs strong, pressing down into the earth. And then let's take a little shift over to one side and just let that leg float on up. Now maybe we do want to engage through those fingertips. Feel that strength through the whole body. Releasing back down to earth, taking a breath there, pushing into the earth, pressing through the fingertips. Shoulders with space, length to the neck, and then coming out to that opposite side. Maybe it helps to find somewhere to stare, a point of focus, a drishti. And then releasing, coming down, nicely done. Shake it out a little bit. And then two choices. We're either going to come to maybe a little bit more of a grounded tree pose while we're here. Maybe we're going to come up into a full tree pose while we're here. Or maybe we're going to find a little space into the side body and come over to one side. So if you're down here, we can find that as well. And maybe it feels good to have that extra bit of stability. Even if you could come up to a balance, maybe you feel a little bit stronger by bringing those opposite toes down to the earth. No right, no wrong. Breathe deep. Soften wherever you can. Be strong only where you need to be. And then calming back up. Releasing that foot down. Shake it out a little bit between sides. Again, maybe you start off down here. Maybe you're coming up to a regular tree pose. I say regular, they're all regular tree poses. Have we ever seen two trees that are exactly the same? No, they are literally all different. And we're going to find that side stretch as well if we want today. A little lean over to one side. Still nice and long. Everywhere you can be. Definitely the neck. Long through the fingertips. One more breath. And then releasing. Hands to heart center, knee coming forwards, and then dropping that foot down to earth. Shake it out. Let's inhale those hands up. Exhale, as the hands come down past the head is going to start to drop. And then the heart, getting strong in the lower torso if we're going to roll it down. If that's not good for you, of course, find a different option. And then bringing those hands on down to the earth. Staying for a few breaths here, or maybe catching the elbows and finding a little ragdoll. So what do you need right now? Movement or stillness? Less contact with the earth, more contact with the earth. And then starting to walk it out. You're either going to stay up in a tabletop pose, and we're going to be coming to a little side puppy, or sink those hips back, hand in front of the knee. As we start off all together with some open and closes, some lifts, and some twists, our inhalations and our exhalations. And then choose somewhere to stay. If we're down with the hips, we might be coming all the way down to the earth with the head, stretching out through fingertips on the floor and up to the sky. With the other hand, if you're in your puppy pose, you might be doing something similar or something a little bit different. And I'll give you that option to find some strength by tucking the opposite side foot and bringing up that same side that you're facing, bringing that leg on up and getting a nice long line. Doing a beautiful twist again now with a bit of an inversion. Breathing deep. And then releasing that leg down if you haven't already. Pressing the hand back into the earth to open up. Whether the hips are up or down, lifting that opposite hand up to the sky. And then releasing. Come forwards for some little cat-cows before the opposite side if that feels good. Or just stay down in a regular child's pose if that feels better. And then let's find that opposite side. So the first few breaths, we're going to find that open and close, that lift and twist. Remember, your hips might be down. You might be doing it more in a child's pose. And then choose somewhere to stay. Maybe we're coming down and lifting that hand up to the sky. If we're at our puppy pose, we might be lifting that hand to the sky or pressing it out in front and taking that same side leg up. So find some balance, find some strength, keeping the hips nice and square. If we don't, we're going to fall on the floor. Not worrying if we do. Last couple of breaths. And then releasing down, taking that hand in, inhale and open, whether the hips are up or down. And then releasing. We're going to find either headstand now, if that feels good to us, maybe we're working up to it, or we're going to go for a rabbit pose, placing the crown of the head onto the floor. Maybe keeping that extra support of the hands. Maybe taking those hands up and going for an opposite interlace to our natural one, as we find some space through the shoulders, pressing the hands up to the sky. And as we release down from whichever type of inversion we've been doing, finding child's pose again, if that's comfortable. Maybe a couple of breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth to really allow and enhance that sensation, that release to the physical body. And even releasing the practice. Maybe there's a couple more things you need to do before Shavasana today. Take your time doing those. If, like me, you're ready to roll over onto the back and maybe just bring those knees into the chest. Maybe just go for a little happy baby before coming to Shavasana today. Let's enjoy now. The whole of the back of the torso can really relax down, the shoulders as well, the back of the head as well. Maybe we're drawing the tailbone down towards the floor a little bit and having a little bit of engagement, resistance, hands and feet. Or maybe not. Maybe it's actually a lazy baby that you're going for. Allowing that deeper state of relaxation to really take over on a physical level, on a mental level, on an emotional level. Just allowing yourself to be here. Perhaps with a little smile on your face. This blissful energy that you created with your practice today. With this kindness and compassion that you've given yourself on all levels today. Maybe there's a couple more movements. You're going to really be kind to yourself. So tune in and respond. And find or create what you need. And when you're ready to come to Shavasana, releasing and relaxing completely. Feeling the body all the way from the tips of the toes, over the toes, the soles of the feet, the balls of the feet, the tops of the feet, the soles of the feet, the heels, feeling that tingling sensation as on a cellular level you start to release and let go and come into a deep, deep state of restoration and relaxation. Over the feet and up through the ankles and the calves and the shins and the knees. That release on a cellular level, that letting go up through the thighs and the hips and the pelvis. And the organs within and the muscles and the connective tissue and the skin. Releasing and letting go. Up through the belly, feeling those organs starting to kick in, starting to work now as the body comes more and more into a state of healing and relaxation and restoration. But the skin and the muscles are relaxing down around the ribs and the torso, the shoulders and the arms and the hands. Maybe that tingling sensation as well on the skin. As you really release and come into that state of restoration, up through the neck and the jaw and the head, the whole of the scalp, releasing and letting go, maybe tingling as it does. Maybe you feel that tingle through the whole of the body as those systems are kicking in and starting to flush the toxins out. Taking away what's no longer needed and delivering what is. Allow your breath to be deep. Anytime you notice the mind wandering, come back to a deep breath. Let it be all about that breath. Releasing and relaxing and feeling yourself getting into that healing mode on all levels, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally as well, as we just relax and release and allow ourselves to restore. Namaste, beauties. Much love.